we're about to bring on stage our president of EXP Global, none other than Michael Valdez. Woo!
Brother. Thank you.
And to do a fireside chat with Michael, we have our very own Global Alliance leader from New York with 500 plus agents, Vincent 𝗚. Woo!
Hey, brother. How are you? So, Vincent, will you just indulge me for a minute? Because as we were sitting here, it really just called to me. About 80% of this room is Latino. Right? Do you realize how many unicorns we have in this room? It is not something that we talk about. Bobby just sort of said, we grew up with the sense that money was evil. Right? It's sort of like, trabaja duro, pero no te pase. You laugh because it's true. It's good. Vincent, take a while. It's going to take a while. Have a seat.
Have a seat.
I'm going to go on a roll. And we have that sense that we can work, but let's not go over that line. And it's bullshit. We have a responsibility to do this. When you go onto a plane and that oxygen mask drops, is there any Latino here that would not put it on their 3-year-old child before they put it on themselves? What happens if you put the oxygen mask on your 3-year-old child and you pass out? Have you done that child any favors? Taking care of you first is not selfish, it's selfless. We have a lot of Latino millionaires in this room. Those two words don't go together in our language. Latino and millionaire doesn't go together. Why? We're called the minority. We're 56% of the population. In my math, we're the majority. Sorry about that. I'm just going to keep going.
Keep going, man.
It's our responsibility to our community, right? Listen, I was sitting in here and it was so, I don't know why my mind is going there, but you know, we see this thing up here, right? And it's just sort of like, it's just like an abstract painting, whatever it is, right? All I saw was an arrow going up. You see that? It's your perception. It's your perception of how you see things. It's your responsibility of how we're seen. So that's my message before we even go to the first question. I don't know why I went on that tangent, but I did.
Michael.
Hey, Vincent.
Michael, I love watching Michael lead, okay? And I love how fun you make things look, right? I remember earlier this week we were at the Latino Mixer.
Yes.
Right? I'm walking in and I walk towards the dance floor and I see these like 10 feet people on stilts dancing and Mike's dancing right in the middle, right? And I said, oh, that's El Presidente right there.
That's because Veronica and Rebecca forced me to.
So, we're going to talk about EXP Global today, but you've been working within EXP Global not before that. How long were you with REALTY?
I was with REALTY 15 years. 15
years, okay. So I want to spend some time and I want to really, create this distinction because REALTY, they're out there, they sell franchises, right? You weren't in franchise sales, you were in servicing. What is servicing?
So when the franchise team sold it, then it came to my team to grow it.
Okay.
So it was all about growth.
Okay, so I was in the franchise model for like 14 years of my real estate career. And tell me if it works the same way globally, okay? If REALTY goes out there, and what brands are under REALTY?
So it was Sotheby's, Coldwell Banker, Century 21, ERA, Better Homes and Garden, and Corcoran.
Okay. So tell me if this is true. They could go out there, sell a master franchise, let's say Century 21, to somebody in Spain. In that same month, in that same year, can they sell a Sotheby's franchise?
Not only could they were encouraged to.
So they compete with each other.
Absolutely.
And who wins?
The Realogy wins.
Look at that. How does EXP differ from that?
There's no Realogy. So, you know, that to me, that's a great question, Vincent. So, you know, I was 15 years in my real estate career was really with the largest franchise model in our business, right? And so those 6 brands were all I knew. And when I met Glenn Sanford and he said to me, no, the agent is the brand. I'm like, what are you talking about? And so it was just, I literally had to get unbrainwashed and understand. And then once I got it, it was, my God, what an epiphany. And you're saying to me, hold on a second. The agent's the brand? And this is just a platform? So the agent can be the brand all over the world? I'm like, well, this is unstoppable at this point. So that's what got me.
Right. So how long have you been building EXP Global for us here?
So I joined EXP in May of 2020. I had built my team and we got everything pretty much together in June of 2020. Our first country that we opened was in October of 2020, which was South Africa. And we opened 5 countries in 2020.
Wow.
And by the way, before that, it took EXP 12 years to open the first 3 countries.
Amazing. Amazing. And where are we at now? What are our numbers?
We're in 21 countries currently open. The next 2 have been announced, which is Chile and Dubai, which Oscar's happy about.
Nice. I've always wondered about the process. What's the order? We understand it's so important. Leadership is really important. And, is it more important to decide on the country, or is it more important to decide on the leadership within the country?
There's probably about, 20 factors that we look at with my team and I. So one of them is obviously organic interest and organic growth, right? We've got 82,000 ambassadors of this brand across the globe. So it'd be silly not to look at what is organic growth. But there's also, because we're not a franchise, there's a lot of fixed costs that go into any country that we open. Imagine we've opened 18 countries in 24 months, so probably about a country every 6 weeks, and we start from scratch. So we go in and we build a corporation. We have the legal, the finance, everything that we do if you start a corporation from scratch. We do it every 6 weeks in a foreign country. And so it's really crazy when you start thinking about that, right? Otherwise, you just need somebody to write you a check for a franchise. So that's not what we do. So we start from scratch. We have some very high fixed costs. And so what we look at, we do a financial analysis for any country we look into. I came from a finance background. I was at Deutsche Bank for 10 years before Realogy. And so when I look at a financial projection, our sweet spot is 15 to 18 months of cash flow, neutral to cash flow positive. So anything that we look at there, we'll look at the all indicators on that, and then we'll look at what the competition is. So we want to make sure that we're not the first to market. We want to make sure that the rules allow us to enter the country. So there's a lot of factors. We just mentioned Dubai. In Dubai, we wanted to enter Dubai for the last year and a half, and we couldn't, because as a foreign national company, we couldn't own our company. It had to be owned by an Emirati. That law changed in January of this year. And so we looked at it again, and Oscar actually had a very, very strong contact there that was very connected with the government. We actually worked with this individual, and we were actually able to get a lot of exceptions to coming into the country. And that individual actually found our broker, which we announced, that was the chief operating officer for Berkshire Hathaway Emirates. And she came over and accepted a position as broker of record for Dubai.
Incredible. Incredible.
So thank you, Oscar. Oscar's happy.
Out of all these countries that you have opened so far, which one was the most significant for you with EXP?
There were different ones. We opened up Mexico. Mexico in the house? All right. And when we opened up Mexico, we're about to announce 1,000 agents in Mexico. We've been open for 17 months. So we are one of the fastest growing real estate companies in Mexico. And I remember that our broker, 𝗚𝗿𝗿𝗺𝗍𝗺, was the former country manager of the Red brand, and he understood what we were bringing to the market. And he's been a wonderful leader for us. And I remember he said to me, you know, my country needed this. And I said, wow, that's a huge statement. And I said, what do you mean by that? And so the idea that EXP as a platform became the greatest equalizer for all agents. So you didn't need to be in Mexico City. You could be in rural parts of Mexico where no brand would ever put up anything in bricks and mortar. And you still had the same responsibility, the same possibility and opportunity to change not only your life, but that of your family and your community. And so that's what he meant by that, and it was really powerful.
I see that. Is Mexico the fastest growing, or is there
India, we're going to celebrate 1,500 agents.
Wow.
Actually, we got to 1,500 agents while we were at shareholders.
Wow. What do you attribute to the growth of India, the accelerated growth at India?
You know, in all cases, it's really the leadership. So the leadership that comes in and really understands what we're doing, understanding that EXP in that particular country is truly a gift. I always say, if you share a gift, you'll never recruit a day in your life. If you truly believe that what EXP has done for each of you in this room that are part of this family, and it truly has been a gift for you, if you just share the story of that gift and you give the gift to somebody else, you'll never recruit a day in your life.
Michael, I want to understand, you know, operations. I can't wrap my head around it. Like, how do you deal with countries that where you don't need a real estate license to operate?
That's the majority of all countries outside of the United States. You know, people start thinking it's countries like Mexico or Panama that we mentioned earlier. Do you realize the United Kingdom has no licensing?
I didn't know that.
So in London, you sell 20, 30, 40, 50 million pound properties. No licensing in the UK. So everyone sort of thinks and associates it with third world countries. Licensing is not the norm outside of the United States. So we deal with it in the same way that everybody else does, you know, and it's the fact that there's almost a system of checks and balances with our model. So if you're sponsoring somebody in another country, you want to make sure that they are doing the work they're supposed to be doing, reporting all their transactions, et cetera, so that you actually participate with your organization. Otherwise, you're not going to get paid anything. So it's almost a system of checks and balances with our model that actually helps us to do all this.
Okay. What about all the different languages that we need to be able to cover to be able to expand into these different countries?
So all of our leaders obviously speak native language, and all of them are English-speaking and bilingual at least. Most of them are multilingual around the world. You know, it's funny, I had a global dinner with the team that was here. So I had 10 team leaders around the world that flew in for shareholders. And so I had a group dinner with them, and I had 18 languages represented at that table of 16 people. Without ever being repeated, so 18 individual languages. And that was extraordinary to sort of like think about that. We truly are a global company.
We are. Now, what about different time zones? Like, are we going to be expanding this metaverse to a 24-hour operation?
We are now. We are in every single time zone with New Zealand. And you know, and that's the beauty of it. You can go into EXP World now, there's a drop down of global operations in every single office that's there. So when we opened New Zealand last month, that was the last time zone. And so now we're open in every single time zone from Hong Kong to New Zealand.
Amazing, amazing. What would you say is the biggest challenge that EXP Global is facing right now?
The biggest challenge, you know, the beginning it used to be the, and by the way, these are new questions for me because Carlos and I and his team sort of came up with questions that Vincent never got. So this is all great.
I got it.
So it's the first one. But at least I got a nice poster outside. Thank you, Carlos. It was really sort of really weird looking at myself walking in. So the greatest challenge is probably in the beginning, it was telling people who EXP was. Right, when we opened up South Africa, we were talking and talking to a lot of prospects, and they didn't know what EXP was. They had no idea. So we're explaining, and they're sort of getting the model. And right now, we are the fastest growing real estate company in South Africa. We have 500 agents, all grown organically. A lot of EXP folks actually sponsored many people in South Africa, and it's actually our third most productive country right now. So it's amazing to sort of see that. So it goes to really brand recognition is now not an issue any longer. And I think it still really comes in with leadership. And so there was somebody that I interviewed for the position in Chile recently. And they asked me a really interesting question. And they said, how would you define the qualities of what you're looking for in that leader? And I said, the leader has to be convinced that what we're bringing to the country is truly something that has never been done before that will change someone's life. And the moment that someone truly believes that and is able to have that conversation with anyone, that's when you have a winner.
Now, Bobby spoke about impact, and I know that you've impacted, and eXp Realty has impacted so many of our lives. What is it like? And tell me about the impact that happens when you bring eXp Global into a new country.
We'll talk about the macro view of eXp with impact first. I just had the incredible honor of returning from Mexico last week in visiting what eXp did with New Story, where they built 100 homes for homeless families in Mexico. And we raised $600,000 out of that charitable event with the heart of many eXp agents around the world. And so it was a blessing to go with the New Story team and see the community that was built and the families moving in. And I remember we met a wonderful woman named 𝗚𝗿𝗺𝗺, and we went into her old home, which was a shack, a shanty, had no walls and had a tarp as a roof. And she was there with 3 generations, her daughter and her grandchildren, and the 2 dogs. And they were all together for 8 years living there. And I asked her what she was most looking forward to in moving into her new home. And she said, walls. And it puts everything into perspective. Puts everything into perspective at that point. When you start seeing that and you start really remembering what it is. And so I love the fact that I'm in an organization with a heart like that. And it's something that, for me, it's very impactful. When we've spoken the word legacy many times, and it's something that I really want to continue to do. And I remember actually this year, I renamed my trust from my name to Herencia, which means legacy in Spanish. And it was a reminder for me because it's what I want to do is to continue to give. So yeah, that's sort of, I'm glad I'm at a company that does that.
Me too. What are the goals for eXp Global?
World domination. Come on, Come on, Vincent. That was such a silly question.
We all want to assist you in that goal.
I love it.
And, what advice would you give us to help us assist you in world domination?
Well, we'll start with the first answer again. So with Realogy, I actually oversaw 113 countries over my career and about 300,000 agents. So I say I'm just getting started, right? We're only in 21 countries, 23 by a few weeks from now. So we're literally just getting started. So those that are saying I'm too late to this global game, no. Think about it. There's 1.5 million realtors in the U.S., right, that are a member of NAR. And when you start looking at it globally, there's 2 million agents in India. There's 1 million agents in Mexico. I've just doubled your number by 2 countries. So when you start looking at growth, you're going to look internationally because that's how you're going to grow your organization. That's what's up on the screen. We're at a global conference. A lot of you in this room have already seen that. And we are literally just getting started. There is an EXP Global website, which is 𝗚𝗿𝗿𝗺𝗍partners with an S. And everything is a one-stop shop there. So it'll give you where we are now. It'll give you an opportunity to nominate any country for consideration in the future and what that opportunity might be. So we look to you as partners. And my team looks at that sheet every single week. We talk about it. We advance things up and down. I'll tell you, I have heard Costa Rica at least 22 times in the last 48 hours. So that might move up on the list. So it always is. Communication is really important. And I swear to you, it's probably one person that asked 22 people to come up to me individually. And it's sort of like, that's okay too, it would have been clever. But
what is the process when they when we put a name in, in that website?
So it's the
what
name
happens?
and the opportunity.
Yeah.
So they'll ask you things like, what is the opportunity? How many agents do you think would come from this opportunity? And then there's a place in the box to sort of talk about whether it's a brokerage, whether it's an individual, whether it's a team, and then we'll start building from there. And then we sort of see where there is cohesive growth and organic growth, and those things move up and down on the list.
Okay. A lot of us here have introduced agents into other countries, and how would you suggest that we best support them in those countries?
Listen, it's the idea of coming in and making sure they're in your downline, whether they are in Colombia or whether they're in California. So remember, there's still an agent that's part of your organization as part of EXP and still need your leadership. And obviously, there's a different model in every country so that we're competitive. And all of those models are available on that same website, 𝗚𝗿𝗿𝗺𝗍partners. And there's an interactive map, and that map will take you to the country landing page, and the model will be there in native language and in English.
Very good. So each individual country has its own landing page. We could send that out, and that's what you would suggest we send out to
Yes, please do not
partners.
quote the US model. Because it is very different in every single country. And we do that to be competitive. So what we do is that we bring the leader in, we do a full market analysis of what our competitors are in that particular country. We'll look at where our best resources are. And so we take the 3 core values of any EXP model. So a competitive commission split with the opportunity to get to 100% commission, the idea of earning stock participation, and then of course the revenue share. So the 3 pillars are the same, the percentages will be different. So the 80-20 does not exist outside the United States, and the deliverables are different, right? So 𝗚𝗿𝗺𝗺𝗺 and 𝗖𝗿𝗿𝗺𝗺 don't have any capabilities outside of the US, so it's not used. Other deliverables are used for those purposes. So please do not sort of quote the US model. We get a lot of sort of like pushing back that we have afterwards, that we have to re-explain it. So if there's an opportunity, especially in a country that we're not in, please do not use the US model at all for that. So just talk about opportunities of EXP in general, and really talk about those 3 buckets in a really macro point of view.
Okay, so you want us to bring you interested parties, right? But you don't want us to send the US version, right?
Correct.
So what do we send?
You tell your story. You tell your story. You don't have to get into specifics, right? You don't have to get into specifics. You have to talk about why you joined EXP, right? What was it about? And it wasn't the 80-20 split, right? Why did you join, right? And you start talking about your story. That's what you talk about, especially in a country that we're not in yet. You talk about opportunity. You talk about what the legacy they can leave behind is. Don't worry about the details. The details will come. Talk about the story.
Excellent. Michael, we're in this global alliance. We're in 10 plus of your countries right now. We're going to be expanding to every single one of your countries and every single one that you continue to open. What additional advice would you give all of us to kind of participate in that growth and be a part of that growth?
Look, remember, there's always an opportunity. All of you bring tremendous value. Think about the value that you bring that you can bring somebody else. We are open to all of you. How many of you have thought about coming in and reaching out to any of my country leaders and sort of say, let me be a guest speaker on your next agent sales meeting? And then you can sort of do that as a talent attraction for your own folks, right? And say, I'm going to be speaking in the India sales meeting on Thursday at this time. And so there's another opportunity for you to attract others into your sphere of influence. You are influential. Remember that if you come from a heart of giving first, you will always receive.
Michael, on behalf of the entire Global Alliance, we really thank you for your wisdom, your time, your leadership, and we're committed to helping you expand to the far corners of this world, okay?
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.